Well, yeah, I didn't have children when I was filming that, so it's sort of difficult to understand what a massive bombshell that moment is. But yeah, we know we did our best as two. Well, at the time. Yeah, no, it was all going so well that moment, and then yeah, it's a bit of a shock. I mean, I think I think Henry's got this sort of, he's not necessarily a violent man, but he's definitely got the propensity for violence, and I don't think it would have taken much more for him to lash out and kill anyone who I think has touched his true love and his wife. So I think it's one of those confusion and anger moments, but yeah, it definitely went from elation to that pretty quickly.
Yes, I think she hasn't had a chance to explain what's happened since she's gone through the stones. And then the first, obviously, Henry sees of that is Lovett saying, "This is my wife and this is my son," and that he's been usurped in a way in his role of the child's father. And I think for Julia, it's a horrible moment. It's, she wants this even less than Henry does, maybe. And so, she has to, she hopes that Henry understands she's had to survive. And that's been the only means to do that. But, she also, there's a fear there that he's not going to forgive her, and that but I think, in reality, with a rational brain, we can look at it and say, well, for women, there was only one option, and that was marriage equals safety, and that's about it. But obviously for Henry, he's able to slip into a profession, and that's how he survives. But obviously with a less rational head, when you're seeing your wife with another man and with your child, that's a very different, very different. Yeah.
He's a lot more pragmatic than I think I would have been in that situation.
It was heartbreaking. Like, I remember it was a tough scene to film. It was exhilarating in a way because, the emotions were high, and we played around with it. So we shot it in a couple of different ways. We did a version where Ellen was really genuinely upset and was really struggling to say what she was saying, and she was showing him her true feelings. But then we did a version where she was brutal and cutthroat and really convincing, and I'm pretty sure that's the version that made the edit, which I'm actually really glad about, because she had to be convincing in order to save him. She had to break his heart in order to keep him alive, literally. So yeah, it's heartbreaking, but I understand why she had to do it. And I'm really glad that we have that moment afterwards where we see how she's actually feeling about it. We see her completely broken, and then gather herself and focus on the next task at hand. But she did it because Colm said, "I'll have him killed if you don't." So
Stakes are quite high.
pretty high.
Yeah. Brian had no idea what was coming. He was just like, watching that back, I was like, I feel so bad for this guy. Like, he's just trying his best, but like, hold on, just trying to figure out the whole situation, and then just this one insult after the other, and yeah, he has no. It's like he's heartbroken, but also just so confused, because it's just like, where did this come from? This is like a side of Ellen that I hadn't, like, he'd never seen before. So I think it's like as much as heartbroken as it is confusion for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It's not a nice scene for her. It's a horrible thing to have happened to her, and I'm glad that it's in there because it shines a light on how women were treated back then. And I think it changes her relationship with her brothers, especially, forever. I think, Colm especially could have done more, I think, to protect her in that moment, and didn't. And she was humiliated. And thank goodness for Julia coming in and, with her potion, because that could have been it for her. I think we know that the Grants are really dangerous people, and had they found out that she wasn't in fact a virgin, we know that people have disappeared in the past when they've crossed the Grants. So yeah, it was tough, but I think she is tough, and it only strengthens her in the end. And I think it makes things clearer. I think it really shows her where her brother's loyalties actually lie. The way that they react, when they find out that the Grants have requested the test, and they say, mum says something like, I think Dougal says, "You've made your bed, let's hope you don't die in it."
Mm.
They're so cutthroat, and
They are.
so they show absolutely no love towards her whatsoever. And I think it's in that moment she realizes that she really is on her own in that family.
But then that look that you give the brothers when you're walking away in the slow motion,
Yeah.
it's like so good.
Yeah.
So good.
I'm so glad that whole thing was kept in, and that, you know, the slow-mo walk out of the new
just
Stephen.
being like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, the shame
Cool, cool.
of them.
Classic Ellen. I mean, he's just so confused at this point because, you know, he's by himself and he's no longer representing Lovett. To be honest, I don't think he's that bothered by that because he's like got his own, you know, shit to deal with. But you know, he's out there and he's just confused. He's heartbroken, but it's mostly confusion because he just can't work it out. Like, Brian's a smart guy, and he's like, no, there has to be some other reason. And I think at this point, you know, when we see at the end of 109 as opposed to the start of 10, it's still very emotion led as opposed to logic led. So he's still really, really upset and angry. And yeah, then all of a sudden there's an arrow that gets you know, fired at him, and then he kind of goes into, you know, his training, his warrior mode, like, you know, it's fight or flight, which is cool because we haven't really seen that side of Brian at all yet. You know, we've seen him as the pacifist, the thinker, you know, the considerate one, but you know, he can definitely hold his own. You know, he was raised, we don't necessarily know this through the story, but he was raised to be able to fight and hold his own, and he's a capable guy, you know, he's strong. So we get to see that side of him, like, you know, be able to fight for his life. And yeah, filming that was quite funny because, like, technically there was so many things we did. Like, we ran through the woods and with like the full costume and stuff, and running in the boots isn't that great, like, because they're boots. And then we did one take where we ran through the woods, and then we did another bit where I ran on a road, so I got to put on my trainers and I could like run full pelt.
Cool.
And they use that a couple of times, like when it's a close up, and that's me running full pelt. And then when Rory tackles me, I was like literally sprinting on the spot, and then he came from the side and just like speared me yeah, onto the crash mat. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever like tried to run on the spot, but it's really difficult. It's really hard to make like not look goofy because you kind of gotta go like one of these things, and if you do it wrong, it just looks like
Like
you're running on the spot. But anyway,
I had no idea.
it looked cool, so
It was great.
that's the main.